Hey everybody, this is Zachary Jeans. Let's keep walking through the Bible. So today is episode 496, and we are walking through the book of Psalms. We are hearing David's heart, we're hearing the prophetic, we're seeing things through the point of view of someone born prior to the coming of Jesus Christ. We're seeing it from our point of view, having already known of the resurrection, the coming of the Christ, his death, his resurrection. And we are standing with these Psalms and the psalmist, in this case, mostly David, looking forward to his return and that which comes after. So we see it through different layers. And then we're also seeing it through our human side, like just the natural life sucks at times and it's really hard. And it might be illness, it might be like a problem at work, it might be an actual physical attack, invading nation. It could be any number of things which makes life really, really hard. We also see it through the joy. There's so many times where life doesn't suck. It's actually good. And David's thankful and rejoices and gives God credit. And yeah, there's just so much to Psalms, right? So we'll be looking today at Psalms 36 through Psalm 40, 5 Psalms. And Lord willing, we will make our way through those. Just like we do every day, we'll be taking 5 Psalms. In the future, when we conclude Psalms, we'll be looking at Proverbs. And then we'll be moving into the major prophets. Well, of course, Ecclesiastes. But really excited, and I appreciate your prayers. The hope, the prayer, is that we will conclude our 3-year Bible walk New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2025. And that is going to take a lot of God's grace, and it's going to take prayer. So I just pray that you would pray for me. All right. A prayer that you would pray for me to be faithful with the thing that God gave me. Okay, to do. Why don't we stop? Why don't we pray? Lord, I love you. And I do pray for people to pray because I want their help and your help in being faithful with your word. And God, I don't want to just be a checker of boxes and a look what I did. But I do want to be faithful with this thing that you've given me. And I see a pathway. I see a path to walk. And I pray, God, that I can be faithful with that. And I pray for these that have made those kinds of commitments to get in your word on the daily, to go through your Psalms with me, and to go through Proverbs, and to keep on trucking all the way through the major prophets and the minor prophets, Lord. And I just pray that you'd bless them and just open up their eyes to who you are and who they are and what this is all about. And give them just miraculous insight into their life and their opportunities to serve, or when to step into stuff and when to step out. God, please give them discernment. And God, please bless them. Please bless them. Please protect them from the enemy. Please protect me from the enemy. Please protect my family from the enemy. And God, we love you. And we just lay our lives before you. It's in your name we pray, Jesus. Amen. Okay. Well, if you could, hit that little like or heart button or whatever it is down there. I do appreciate it if you would share. There is a new Keep Walking Through the Bible channel, and I will be sharing more of that as it becomes more solidified. It is up. It is at Keep Walking Through the Bible on YouTube, and you can find it there, youtube.com/ and then the @ symbol. That's how you find channels, and then Keep Walking Through the Bible. And go check it out. It's not complete, but it's going up. And there's going to be individual studies, and there'll be study guides for these various books that we've gone through, sermon collections, all kinds of opportunity to share that will be separate from I'll be the teacher, but it does open the door for other teachers to come and share on that platform, and just to share out, keep walking through the Bible. Lord willing, we'll have some stickers and we'll have some t-shirts, and no, I'm not going to get rich on t-shirts and coffee mugs. But I almost think that's more for me than anything, that I want to have some Keep Walking merch for myself when I'm out and about, to encourage people to just keep walking with God, keep walking through the Bible, keep walking by faith, right? Keep walking with Jesus. So Lord willing, that'll come around as well. Next level would probably be keep walking coffee. Ooh, my own coffee. No, we aren't here to get filthy lucre, as Peter says in the King James off the Bible. But that said, I can't afford to give everybody stickers. So, there'll probably be some cost. Okay, let's open up Book of Psalms, Psalm 36. And as always, you probably do want to hit that pause button now and go listen or read Psalm 36 through 40, esv.org. Psalm 36 is titled by the ESV authors, How Precious is Your Steadfast Love? I think it's a fair title. It's somewhat generic, and but hey, it's a pretty hefty psalm, and those are the main themes. There's a couple things in here I do want to stop and note, though. So verse 1, transgression. Oh, you know what? Let's back up. This one has a little title note, and it's not just a psalm of David. It says, to the choir master of David, the servant of the Lord. Man, Paul talks about that, a bondservant of the Lord. Paul, an apostle, a bondservant of the Lord, called to this and that. And Epaphras, faithful servant. And, when I was younger, service, and yeah, I was in total agreement. Yeah, absolutely. You want to be a servant of God. It didn't hit me what that means, like over a lifetime, though. And serving people over a lifetime, being the peacemaker, being the one who sits in the midst of a conflict and labors with people who are turning on you left and right, and all you're trying to do is help them take another step forward, being in the scrum, as it were. That's tough stuff. That is tough stuff. And to be a servant of the Lord, that is to be, as Jesus said, to take that towel at this big, Passover meal the night before he's going to die. And they don't know that, though. They're celebrating the Passover, and it's this incredible meal, and it's in a beautiful room, an upper room in Jerusalem, in the city. The city is full of celebration and reflection, and right before the fourth cup of wine, the celebratory sort of final reflective cup, Jesus takes off his robe and then wraps a towel around his waist, like a lowest of low servant, somebody who doesn't own their own life. And he goes and he washes the disciples' feet. And he said, this is what it's all about. You're about to go. They didn't know it, but looking back, they're like, whoa, God was sending us out. Jesus was sending us out to go teach and to lead this church. And he's like, yeah, and you got to do so from the lowest of low positions, the servant. And I love that here King David takes the title in his own psalm, the servant of the Lord. The servant of the Lord. We see that as an exalted thing, as we should. Jesus told us, yeah, the servant, least of these is the greatest among you. But we do that because we have a couple thousand years of Bible sort of interwoven even through our fairly pagan culture now. But it's a kind of a bedrock to think, oh, well, yeah, somebody who serves, who really gives their life, that's honorable, right? But back then, in the time of David, it really wasn't. It was like low stuff, gutter stuff. And so he's like King David, the servant, the lowest service, serving God, right? It's this like king is a servant to the Lord, right? All right. Transgression speaks to the wicked. Deep in his heart, there is no fear of God before his eyes. For he flatters himself in his own eyes, that his iniquity cannot be found out and hated. The words of his mouth are trouble and deceit. He has ceased to act wisely and do good. He plots trouble while on his bed, and he sets himself in a way that's not good. He does not reject evil. Those who are wicked in the eyes of the Lord are those who flatter themselves, who spend their time hanging out on their bed, thinking up ways to screw people over. This is their life, and evil. They don't even think of it as evil. It's just like, hey, I won, right? It's the thief that says to themselves and to their friends, well, it's their fault. They should have been better at keeping their stuff. I just talked with somebody the other day who was telling me a story. They were down at the state fair. This is years ago, where they're from. And, they were in high school at the time, and they got pickpocketed. They had their wallet in their purse, in their bag, and it was in an outer pocket, and they got pickpocketed. And she told me another story of time where it happened again. She was in high school, and she was in a really busy hallway, and everybody's kind of bumping around, making their way between classes. And the only reason she knew that her phone had been stolen is that all of a sudden her earbuds stopped working. Right? It's like not connected to your phone. She ended up getting her phone back from the people, and the school had wanted her to press charges. And she's like, man, that's just not who I am. I just hope that they figure out that this isn't a good idea. And I was listening to her tell that story, and I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, when do you ask for justice and press charges, and when do you offer grace and mercy? And that's always a tough decision. But she had decided, you know what, I'm not pressing charges. I just hope they figured it out. But like their point of view, the people who steal stuff, their point of view is just like the psalmist David is telling us. They think they don't reject evil. They plot trouble when they're in bed. They set themselves in the way that's not good. This is intentional, right? Like they think this is a good thing. From their point of view, they aren't doing wrong. They're doing the right thing in their own eyes, right? This seems good to them, all right? But David says, your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God, and your judgments are like the great deep. That's the ocean. Man and beast you save, O Lord. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of mankind take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light. And this is very prophetic. Whether David knew at the time when he's writing this or not, I tend to think that in these moments, as you see him teaching the psalm and making an observation about what's going on around him, maybe he's referencing people that he's actually seen plotting evil, and he's just like, Lord, I see this happening. And then he starts to talk about, but God, I've also seen you deliver both people, and he's thinking of real people, and he's thinking of beasts, like real animals, maybe that he saw like pulled up out of a pit, some like ox or something, some calf, some sheep, and then he starts to crescendo. He starts to rise as his spirit is lifted up into a place of praise, and he starts to see visions of God and of God's place and his place where he dwells, that sort of thing, right? Because this image here, verse 7 through verse 9, I mean, this is what John sees when God brings him up to heaven. And when he shows him a new heaven and a new earth, when he shows him the city of God that was descending out of the sky, 1,400 miles or so by 1,400 miles. And and it's like this amazing, beautiful city, and in the middle it's got a river of God, and it's a fountain of life is flowing through from the throne room, and there's no night, and there's light, but people can still see light. It's an incredible place. And David, 1,000 years before Jesus, is seeing this stuff, right? Whether he knows it or not, I don't know. All right. Let's go to Psalm 37. Now I got to tell you, Psalm 37 is one of my favorite Psalms. I find myself coming to Psalm 37 maybe more than any other Psalm, at least as much as a couple of my other favorites. It's both comforting, and it is hopeful, and it deals with just, the things that all the Psalms deal with, the troubles of life and the blessings of life and this and that. But there's this like balance of discernment in it, and it speaks to me in times where I'm wondering about direction. And maybe it will for you, I don't know. Psalm 37 of David. Fret not yourself because of evildoers. Be not envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Fret not yourself. You're like, well, why do you read that psalm? Well, it's because maybe I'm anxious. Maybe I'm worried. It's like, Zach, don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry about people are doing wrong. Don't worry about evildoers in the world. They're going to fade. They're going to pass. They might be high in authority right now for a season, but they are going to go like grass fades at the end of the summer. And then it's all chopped up and burned, and the seasons change. Like they are not going to last. Or the evil situation you're in, right? Or the difficult situation. Fret not yourself. Trust in the Lord, verse 3, and do good. So what do? Well, don't worry. When you tell yourself not to worry, don't be anxious, don't worry. Well, then you're like, okay, now what? Okay, if I tell myself not to do something and then I don't put something in its place, what do? Well, you go back to doing the thing you were doing, and that was worrying. Okay, so what do? Verse 3, trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. What's a path? A general path to life in your circumstance? You start looking around, you're like, well, what can I do? Everything seems so much bigger than me. This situation just seems out of control or hard. Okay, well, trust in the Lord. And you're like, okay, is that greeting card Christianity, Zach? No. Trust in the Lord specifically in that situation. Okay, Lord, I trust you. Lord, I trust you. And now I'm going to look for the little opportunities or the big ones to do good. What is it? And you may not see them all just sitting there in your chair or with your journal. Okay, what are the good things? You can write some down, but keep your eyes open. God, I'm trusting you through this anxious, fretful situation. What is the good? Where are the good things I can do? Right? And then you do them. You do them with faith. You live in the land and you befriend faithfulness. Be faithful with the small things. Be faithful. Be trustworthy. Not just to the Lord, to yourself and for others. Live in the land, right? Be faithful. Do good. And then delight yourself in the Lord. everything may be going to crap around you. Find your delight in God. Yep, that means turn off the radio, turn off the podcast. Don't turn off this podcast, right? Or you can, I don't know. Turn on the worship music. Maybe an old worship music or an old album that you used to listen to when you first got saved. You know, in the book of Revelation there, in the first church that Jesus tells John to write, it's the church of Ephesus. And he tells him to, he says, you know, you lost your first love. Go back and do the things you did at the beginning. And so if it's been a while since you've done the things, literally done the things that you did at the beginning of your faith walk, do those. Go find those worship albums that meant so much to you in the beginning of your faith. Go listen to a couple sermons from some pastor you haven't listened to in 20 years or 3 years or 5 months or whatever it's been. And go listen and remember and get to that place where you're delighting in God. Delight in the Lord. And He will give you the desires of your heart. He will give you the desires of your heart. Oh, now I'm going to win the lottery. No, probably not. That's not what we're talking about. But I'll tell you what, it's not entirely true to make this super spiritual and just say, oh, well, God will change your heart and He'll give you new desires, and those desires will be for Him, and it'll be for, you know, serving the poor and all this. Well, yeah, God's going to change your heart, and He's going to give you the desires of His heart, of your heart, because it will be your heart to have His heart, right? But I don't think it's right to totally set this apart from the context that this psalm is written. And that is that there are anxious things, there are attacks on a person's life and their finances and their home and their place they live. And that God's saying here, look, and I'm going to give you the desires of your heart. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to provide for you. Commit your way, verse 5. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the new day. It will happen. God will act. Like the sun coming up tomorrow, like the middle of the noonday, it's happening. Trust in the Lord. He will do it. Not trust in the Lord and, oh, I don't know. We'll see. No. Trust in the Lord and He will act. Be still before the Lord. Wait patiently for Him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Stay back from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself, it tends only to evil. For the evildoer shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Patient waiting on God to act is not a hapless, hopeless hope. It is a sure and steadfast trust that God will bring about deliverance. He will bring about action. In His time, it will come, just like the sun coming up. And if you refrain from anger, if you have nothing to do with wrath, just every time it pops up in your heart, rebuke it. God, I don't want that. I don't want that in my life. I'm sorry. I give it to you. I give you this person. They're yours. I don't want it. I'll leave anger and wrath to you, Lord. You know what to do with that. I'm not going to worry myself because it tends only to evil. When we worry, we start fearing. And when we start fearing, we start thinking of how to protect ourselves. And then we start taking actions which we might not otherwise have taken, which have very negative consequences. Right? So when we worry, it tends only towards evil. It doesn't tend towards good. Worry only tends, drifts, leans toward evil. Isn't that interesting? So when you're worrying, worry itself isn't evil. But if you stay there in a place of worry, if you stay there and you rest in your worry and you don't delight yourself or trust in the Lord and wait patiently for him, you will find yourself drifting, leaning towards evil. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in abundant peace. What did Jesus say? Sounds an awful lot like that in the Sermon on the Mount, right? And the wicked plots against the righteous and gnashes his teeth at him. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees that his day is coming. Not only in the short term, but in the final term, when he returns. The wicked draw their sword and bend their bows to bring down the poor and the needy, to slay those whose way is upright. The sword shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. Better is the little that the righteous has than the abundance of many wicked. Better is the little bit, the little wealth, the little amount, the little bit of food, the little bit of clothing, the little bit of lifestyle that the righteous has than an abundance of all that stuff that the wicked have. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. In the end, God judges. And in the end, people get what they have invested in. They may rise to great heights with great wealth and great fame and great everything. And inside they are being chewed up and spit out by themselves and their enemies. And eventually they crash and burn. And ultimately, if they've truly been in rebellion against God, they will face him in that final judgment. The Lord knows the days of the blameless, and their heritage will remain forever. Forever. Everlasting. We will finish out this life, this earthly life, and we will lay down this temporary tent that we live in, right? And we will take on an everlasting building, a new body that will never die. It will never be corrupted. And we will forever grow and learn and serve in the presence of God, in the place that has light in light. Okay? That has a river of life and a fountain of life. The wicked will perish. The enemies of the Lord are like the glory of the pastures. They vanish like smoke. They vanish away. It says in Revelation 19 that the smoke of their torment, those that God has judged and cast into judgment in a place that is called hell, it says the smoke of their torment will rise to his nostrils forever and ever, to the Lamb, to Jesus. He will be cognizant and aware of justice upon those who fought against the Lord, that rebelled against God, that refused to receive his forgiveness. And here we have David writing, the wicked will perish. The enemies of the Lord are like the glory of the pasture, right? Beautiful, abundant, might be grain, might be flowers, might be crops. They look great for a season, but then they're harvested, and then all that dead plant material is thrown on fires, and it burns, and the plant material blows away the chaff and the smoke, and just wafts, and then it's gone. And in heaven, we have the smoke of their torment rises up before the Lord. Isn't that wild? It's wild. The steps of a man are established by the Lord when he delights in his way. Though he fall, that's the person who's delighting in the Lord, right? Whose steps are established in the Lord. Though he fall, so it's possible to trip up, it's possible to fall, even when you're following the Lord, he shall not be cast headlong, for the Lord upholds his hand. You may trip up, but God's gonna, if you are really walking with God, you aren't gonna break your head on the sidewalk and kill yourself with your sin. You may screw up. You may screw up even pretty seriously. But if you're walking with the Lord, it won't be like a, Mortal Kombat finishing move, right? Or for those that don't know what I'm referencing, that video game, it's not a death knell in your life. I've been young and now I am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. For he's ever lending generously, and his children become a blessing. And that generally is true. You might have I don't know. We used to drink 7-Up. Now we drink, LaCroix. That soda flavored water, with but whatever the cheapest soda water is, right? And Cracker Diet, cheap food out of, whatever discount grocery store there is. You may have only that lifestyle, okay? But you won't be on the street begging for food if you're walking with God. You're going to find ways to work, to put a little bit of food together, to find a place to live. You're going to be offered an opportunity to rent somewhere that is within your means, some way, somehow, and your kids aren't going to be on the street. But I tell you what, I drive around at night around the city and the metro area where I live, and I see people on the street, and occasionally kids, and people begging, waving signs. And we're not talking about people that are physically incapable of working, not always, some, but many. It's like you could go get a job right now at Amazon, but you won't. Or maybe you did and you burned that bridge, and you burned all these bridges, and now you're just like, yeah, I don't want to work. I just want to wave a sign. Turn away from evil, do good, so shall you dwell forever. For the Lord loves justice. He will not forsake his saints, his holy ones. They are preserved forever, set apart. But the children of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell upon it forever. The mouth of the righteous utters wisdom, and his tongue speaks justice. The law of his God is in his heart. His steps don't slip. Yeah, good footwear. Keep walking, right? We talked about keep walking through the Bible, and it's obviously the image of walking along a path or a road, and having the right foot gear for the path you're on is important, right? And in this case, you're shodding your feet with God's word in your heart, and speaking truth and justice, and having righteousness and wisdom, and having all that in your life, just kind of embodying you. That's the stuff you want to wear. That's the clothing and the footwear, right, for this walk with God. The wicked watches for the righteous, and he seeks to put him to death. The Lord will not abandon him to his power, or let him be condemned when he is brought to trial. Wait for the Lord and keep his way, and he will exalt you. He'll lift you to inherit the land. You will look on when the wicked are cut off. Eventually, God will bring all of that wickedness upon their own head. Be faithful through the trial and the process. I've seen a wicked, ruthless man spread himself like a green, luxurious tree. But he passed away, and behold, look, he's no more. Though I sought him, he couldn't be found. Mark the blameless, and behold the upright, for there is a future for the man of peace. But transgressors shall be altogether destroyed. The future of the wicked shall be cut off. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their stronghold in the time of trouble. The Lord helps them and delivers them. He delivers them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. Psalm 37. Take refuge in God. Man, I love that psalm. All right. Now, I just have a couple things I want to note from the next three psalms. Psalm 38, there are two sections I want to look at. Psalm 38 is titled, Do Not Forsake Me, O Lord. A psalm of David for the memorial offering. And I want to look at verse 3 and 4 here. There is no soundness in my flesh because of your indignation. There is no health in my bones because of my sin. For my iniquities have gone over my head like a heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. My wounds stink and fester because of my foolishness. I am utterly bowed down and prostrate. All the day I go about mourning, for my sides are filled with burning, and there is no soundness in my flesh. I am feeble and crushed. I groan because of the tumult of my heart. I was just chatting with a really great guy. I had picked him up. He had a cane, and he was about my age, maybe my age, a little older, like 50. And he was a line cook for a restaurant at a hotel. And as we got to talking, real good conversation. He was just starting to share, because I had asked him about, his injury or why I needed a cane. And eventually the story goes is he reached a point here not too long ago, a couple years ago, where his liver shut down. He had cirrhosis of the liver. It's where your liver, because of, it can be a genetic thing, but in his case, it was alcoholism. You pass all the alcohol through, you damage the liver, the cells, and then the cells try to heal themselves, but they there's scarring, and then the collagen comes in there. And essentially, it creates this tough, fibrous flesh where the liver is supposed to, it's remaking itself. It's like maybe you think of it as like a callus in a way on your skin, but your liver becomes calloused, and not just on the outside, but like through. And what that does is it starts to squeeze out the various ducts and places where your body secretes stuff, or blood flows around, or where it's able to remove some of the bile and then the fluids and different stuff through your liver. And so then what happens is then that fluid then doesn't have anywhere to go, and so it builds up, right? So he's sharing all this with me and talking about how his alcoholism over the years has led his liver to be basically almost non-functional. And where his sides and his whole body hurts so bad from even the treatments, because they have to go in with what they call, he said, a non-invasive treatment, where they put, just a small tube with a catheter down, and then get down to the liver, and then move that around his inside, and then suck out all the fluid. And I know this is gross, but I'm reading here how David's sides are utterly burning, right? And he's groaning, and there's no soundness in his flesh. And the liver controls the the health of our skin is tied to our liver as well. Because our body doesn't process all the toxins, right? And also our mental health and our balance and all of that. You can hallucinate if your body's not processing all the toxins out through your liver and kidneys. and your balance can be thrown off and you can face plant. And he was actually sharing with me that he had face planted and he had hallucinated before because his body was not processing out those toxins. But anyway, he was telling me about how they're pulling fluid out through this non-invasive treatment, which he's like, it's pretty invasive. It just means they don't cut them open. And they pull the fluid out through a catheter and a line, and they filled up 8 to 10 liters. I think he said 10 liters of fluid. Now they're pulling out less now that he's doing better and he's completely stopped drinking. And at the end of our conversation, he was giving God glory, giving God credit, you know, God bless and bless you and this and that. And I was like, hey, God bless you. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, because I don't push my faith on people until, you know, they're ready to open up. And at the end, I could tell he was a believer. And so I was able to kind of say, man, my hope is that God, you know, I'm be praying that God heals you, you know, that sort of thing. He's like, man, thank you. And anyway, my point is there's no soundness in my flesh because of your indignation. There's no health in my bones because of my sin. Now, you know that I have no problem with people who drink. I drink on occasion too. Chronic alcoholism, drinking to the point of being drunk, where you're shoving all that alcohol through your body is just killing you if you're doing it all the time. And to be fair, no alcohol is probably the best way for your body to live. But my point is if you are shoving all that alcohol through your body, or any other drug, or any other substance, it could be a food substance, which is creating a fatty liver, right? And that also can create cirrhosis of the liver and then cause your body to start to shut down. You can hurt yourself with sins of not just alcoholism or drug use, but actually an addiction to food, the wrong sugars, too much sugar, too much saturated fats, right? That can also lead to this destruction of your insides, which I think now David may be referring to some other things, right? He may be referring to his remembering his sin with Bathsheba and Uriah and thinking of the loss of his first child there to her and just the heartbrokenness. Or he could be referring to just a life lived of celebration and too much drinking. I don't know. But I know that this passage here in Psalm 38 makes me think of being a good steward with our bodies, right? I love Tillamook. This is Tillamook for Tillamook cheese. And I love their medium cheddar. It's so expensive right now, I don't buy it. But man, I love cheese. I could eat cheese every day. Probably shouldn't. So I'm not just beating up on you if you know you're drinking. I have drinks. I have some whiskey over there. Tell you what, talking to him makes me want to drink a little less. So shout out to my friend Tessa, who's probably praying that I'll never drink again, and God bless her. She is an awesome sister in the Lord who is a dear friend who realized that she had an issue with alcohol, and she has completely shut it off and is sober and just a real strong light and advocate for just not putting that stuff in your body. So my door is open to everyone, okay? And even guys like the guy I had last night who had too much. So my conversation with him wasn't so much about his alcoholism, but what he's going to do with this, you know, in his daily now. How's he moving forward? All right, let's look at Psalm 39. Excuse me. Okay, let's look at verse 4. O Lord, make me know my end, and what is the measure of my days. Let me know how fleeting I am. Behold, you have made my days a few hand breadths, and my lifetime is as nothing before you. Surely all mankind stands as a mere breath. A man goes about as a shadow. Surely nothing they are in turmoil. Man heaps up wealth and does not know who will gather. This section, O Lord, make me know my end and what is the measure of my days, has been on my mind now. Maybe not that specific verse, but this concept has been on my mind for the last couple months. Really couple years, probably the duration of teaching the Bible here. I have been thinking and praying about direction in life. I know that there's kind of these seasons of life, these sections of life, and I could see kind of the highs and the lows and the waves and the moves of my life. And with the coming advent of my 50th birthday and just recognizing, being cognizant of the brevity of life, how life is just a few hand breadths, right? It's not long. I was talking with a guy last night, a younger guy, and he was having somewhat of a revelation. He was pretty hammered, speaking of drinking. But a guy who just truly wasn't getting hammered because he was sorrowful, but he's just trying to just get the most out of life and just be with people and hear music and have a good time and just not give up and go back to his bedroom and sleep it all off. But getting out there, right? And so, yeah, probably could do it in better ways, right, than just getting hammered all the time. But his heart was like, I recognize that life is short. And I was like, yeah, life is short and it's long. It's long in one sense. We've all been there where it's just like, man, it's a long, boring day, you know? But then there's times when you just recognize the brevity of life. And I was talking to him about it, and he was realizing and telling me just how important it was to spend time and invest in people who love you and can be loved, and to wish them well, to be safe. And I thought, wow, this guy, he's taking steps forward. So at the end, I was able to drop him a, hey, God bless you, man, and this and that. And he just paused and he went, oh, because he was asking me, are you a lover? Are you a lover of people? And I was like, yeah, man, I am. You know, I'm waiting for that opportunity to share who Jesus is. And it wasn't coming. And then at the end, I didn't get to really share Jesus, but I was able to go, he was like struck because he could tell that I really do love people. And he just kept saying, man, you love people, don't you? I was like, yeah, man. And then at the end, he's like wondering why, how? Because I always wait till they ask. And then he's getting out and he says his thing. And then I tell him, I'm like, God bless you, man. God bless. And it wasn't like a God bless and blah, 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 goodbye. It was like a blessing, God bless. God bless you. And he was like, oh, yeah, I get it. But this passage here, I've been thinking a lot about this concept that my life, this earthly life, is very short. And I'm entering a section of life. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'll have health issues. You know, we can be strong one day and we go down another. I've had people in my life who healthy as a horse in one checkup, and next thing you know, they're in hospice, right? A year and a half later, and they're dying, and they're dead, and they're gone. And that could happen to me. It could totally happen to me. But should I have a relatively continued, you know, somewhat linear line towards the end of my life? Maybe I live 20. Maybe I live, because my dad died when he was 71. I'm almost 50. That's like 22 years from now. Maybe I make it another 40 years, right? Maybe I make it 40 years, and maybe I'm 90. Maybe I make it as long as my grandpa Waldy, who lived till he was like 99. But even then, even if I were to live to 99 or 100, right? I'm 49 now, almost 50. That would be the halfway mark here, or less than, should I live less than that. And so I am very cognizant that maybe I have a good, I don't know, 20, 25 years of good mental, like solid mind, you know, and somewhat healthy body. But I know that when I hit my 70s, somewhere in my mid 70s, it's going to start to decline. It all does for all of us. right? 70s, 80s. So the bulk of my strength, the bulk of the strength of my life is really over the next 20-ish years. And so I've thought a lot about this. And so doing what I'm doing now, teaching, sharing God's word, helping people that don't know God, and people who know God, walk with him and know him better. That's what my life is about. I could have taken the path of going back to marketing, gone back into software, tech, business analyst, that world. It was fun. I loved doing it. It was great. I could have gone back into some sort of trucking or dump truck driving or something blue collar. I've done that stuff in the past. It's just not what I want to do with the rest of whatever I've got. So what am I doing? Well, for the short term and the medium term, I'm driving people around town and praying and ministering to people, whether they know it or not. Like the two guys I told you about today. Whether they know it or not, I am praying into lives, into ways in which pastors and family members who are believers, who know these people, don't have that insight into their lives, and I get to have that insight. I get to see and pray into places in Portland, in the metro area, that most Christians just don't have any access to. God has given that to me, and it pays my bills. And then I also get to teach the Bible. Here, keep walking through the Bible. Now, Lord willing, I want to do more of this and more like one-on-one life coaching, and I'm working on that life coaching stuff. So this is my thinking on my little window of life that I have left. I don't know what God has for you, but just consider how brief life is. Take what God has given you before you step into eternity in that everlasting life. What to do with the brevity and the short term opportunity that God has given you here. All right. Chapter or Psalm 40, and we'll close with this. Verse 1 and 2 and 3. I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a new song in my mouth and a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, set my feet upon a rock. I just talked about trying to evaluate the brevity of life. And maybe when you do that, you are sad. Maybe you are so depressed and have been for so long. And you hear me talking and you're listening and you're like, yeah, Zach, it's just, I hear it. I wish I could have that joy. I see the joy in your face at times. I just don't got it. I hear you. I want you to know that you can cry out to God, and he will lean in and hear your cry, and he will draw you up out of that pit of despair. He will pull you up out of that swamp, that mucky, swampy darkness and sadness, and he will put your feet on a rock, on solid ground. He will do that. And he'll put a song in your heart and your mouth, and you'll sing to God. And then when you're praising God, having been lifted up out of that miry pit of depression, and singing and praising God for what he's done and what he's doing, people will like both fear and reverence God because of this incredible work that God did in your life. And then they will also trust the Lord. Your life in its depression has purpose. Your life in your miry bog of brokenness or illness has purpose. Trust in God, call on him, and get to a place where you can stand firmly on the word in Jesus and praise God. And guess what? People are going to be like, whoa, that is a miracle. I never thought they were going to come out of their bedroom. I never thought they were going to get off their bed. I never thought they were going to get off their antidepressants and be strong and able to, do a normal day. And then you did. And it wasn't you, it was God, because you stopped trying to do it on your own, or stopped trying to do it with the help of drugs, or stopped trying to do it with just the help of endless doom scrolling on your phone to make the pain, numb the pain. You did it because you said no to those things, and you said yes to God, to Jesus, to supernatural help, and the help of those who know the Lord and the word of God. And then you started praising God and giving him credit, and you didn't care what people thought about you. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, whoa, this is scary, how crazy God is to save her or him. And then they trust God because of that. I think this old movie from the 80s, it was a kid's movie, it's called The Neverending Story. And there's this story in this sort of fantasy world where this darkness is essentially eating everything in this fantasy world. It's literally, the darkness is closing in and just ripping up the rock and all the people, and it's pulling them into this cloud of darkness and destruction. And the people are racing towards the center, towards the center of this land where the empress is, hoping that maybe she has the answer to save the land. And there's a hero in it, a young boy named Atreyu, and he's riding a horse, a stallion named Artax. And this horse is super faithful and super powerful, and they're riding through the land, and they get to a miry bog where they're trying to get through to ask a question of this wise old creature who's kind of like a giant turtle the size of a mountain. Anyway, they're going through this bog, and it's this bog of despair. And the horse gets into this bog, and instead of pushing through, the horse loses hope. And when you lose hope in this bog, you sink. If you have hope, you're able to move through. And Atreyu's horse, Artax, starts to lose hope. And Atreyu starts crying out to Artax, because he starts to realize, oh no, Artax is sinking. Artax, he's like crying out, Artax, no. Come on, Artax. And he's pulling on him. And the horse, it's like, it wants to, but it can't. And it's just getting sadder. And it's sinking and sinking and sinking. And Atreyu, this warrior young man, is just pulling like, no, have hope. And Artax sinks into the bog. And Atreyu has to decide then, losing his best friend, his horse. And he still has this quest and this journey to save the land from the darkness. Is he going to keep going? Or is he going to sink into that bog? Keep going. Keep going. Now, in the end, Artax is resurrected because the land is saved and everyone is saved. Because Atreyu is willing to move forward. And it's a more complicated story than that. But Atreyu's faith, his willingness to hope, eventually led to the salvation of all those who were taken down by darkness. So don't fret. Don't worry yourself because of wicked ones. Do not fret because of this miry bog of depression. Have hope in God. Trust God has a purpose for your life. And others will be saved through that trust, through that hope. All right. Well, I know I took a little longer, but Psalm 37 is so important to me, and some of these other sections of these Psalms are just so important to me as well. I encourage you to, again, go back through these things. But until next time, keep walking, okay? God bless you. Bye-bye.